that we
It's not.
Hello?
Yeah.
The original message is that we really wanted to build tech solutions, and we were talking about banking the unbanked, and we wanted to, like create freedom and transparency. And we've gotten stuck in this really interesting hamster wheel of all sorts of L1s, all sorts of dev tooling, and we still haven't solved things like remittances and the things that we kind of talked about to, start this whole space off. So today we've got a really interesting group of people coming at it from different aspects to talk about what should the user experience be, what are we really building for here, and we've got some different takes on it. So Francisco, you want to kick us off and just give us some high level of what you've been building and what you think about this?
Yeah, sure. So, Request Network, I would say it's like a hybrid between the other companies here, which Coinbase, which is a bit more centralized, and FWB, which is fully decentralized. So Request Network is a protocol that allows you to add data to your blockchain transactions. And we do that by storing this data in a decentralized way, so on IPFS and dash it back on chain. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but allows you to create somewhat of decentralized invoices and receipts for blockchain payments, which allows the financial industry and companies from the traditional finance to come inside the Web3 space, and allows them to have their accounts managed in a more correct way and be more compliant. That's basically what we've been building on Request Network.
And there's a plot twist, so we'll come back to that. But Greg, what are you building?
I oversee a DAO called Friends with Benefits, or FWB. Shout out to the members in the audience. We are the largest Web3 social network, and our mission is super simple. We use culture to drive the adoption of emerging tech. So excited to chat about that today.
And Kelvin?
Hi everyone. My name is Kelvin. Sorry. Hey everyone. Name is Kelvin, like the temperature. Nice to meet you guys. So I work for Coinbase. Specifically right now I'm on the institutional USDC team, but I used to work on Coinbase Wallet. So really happy to be here to chat about high level what we're thinking when we think about user experience and things like that.
So the thinking in bringing traditional finance, the nexus with culture and Web3, and a platform that has onboarded more Americans than arguably any other is to really come at it from a different perspective. And I had a great debate with a community member, Deacon, the other day about, do we actually need to build Web3 tooling for the rest of the world and kind of obfuscate the Web3 part of it? And his argument was that no, this tech matters as it is. We don't need to build Web 2.5 and hide it behind the curtain. Like, people should want to come here. They should want to opt in and use these tools, and there's a learning curve for that. My argument was different, but I would love to get your take on it.
I mean, the answer is no. I think that this is a really concentrated audience of people, but the space is almost saturated for this room. Like, I think, you might choose a different L1, or you might move to an L2 or an easier, but I think it's the benefits of the technology that people actually care about, but it has to maybe be 10% harder than current technology, but 12% is going to have a steep cliff and steep fall off. So most people like it, but it's too much for them. So I disagree. It depends who you're talking to. To this audience, yes, they care about. To anyone outside of it, it needs to be way easier and way simpler for people to also have the benefits, but then integrate it into their daily lives.
I think I have a...
Disagree.
I have a different view. I think that maintaining the value is important, but Web3 will not grow if we don't build the right tooling around it, so that provides a good user experience and that abstracts most of the Web3 components. So account abstracting is a thing because regular people per se don't want to deal with wallets, seed phrases, stuff like that. They don't want to have to sign things when they are using a website. So I do think that the goal here, and it's a very difficult road because you have to kind of manage how to incorporate the values of Web3 that are really important: decentralization, transparency, even efficiency, because Web3 is very efficient in some points that Web2 is not, into a good user experience, and you'll end up having these tools built, but with users not knowing that they are using Web3, not knowing what's really behind the scenes, like in every other tech that we use. But in the long term, taking the benefit of using the Web3 technology behind it, yeah.
I think I have a blended view of the two. When we think about onboarding the next billion people, there's no doubt going to be people who don't know how to use the tech as well as everyone else. Don't want to pick on my mom, but for example, my mom, I tried to teach her how to use a self-custodial wallet, and she's confused. I think she probably have the app deleted at this point, but she was confused. She didn't really know how to do it, and there would be no hope trying to teach her how to use like DeFi protocols and things like that, at least at the current moment. And we want that technology to get to a point where every single human in the world is using Web3 versions of things, or the Web3, be onboarded into the Web3 world. But I think it does take a lot of familiarity and baby steps, maybe Web 2.5, before we can get to a place where every single human in the world is comfortable being on chain, being in the Web3 world.
Well, and to that, I think it's kind of a yes and, right? Like maybe we do have these deep layers here and we come together and we nerd out, and your mom has something that she doesn't have to worry about it with. And my argument with Deacon was that, as Marshall McLuhan said, we shape our tools, but our tools shape us as well. And when you think about the cell phone in your hand and how much that has changed the way that you communicate with people, if we can get transparent and honest tech in the hands of people, what is that going to start doing? Thinking about who is my neighbor? Who do I share value with? Does it have to go through a gatekeeper like Visa? Or can I interact with you guys directly? And how does that change your ideas of community? So I'd like to shift it a little bit to talk about some of the stuff that's happening with FWB and the cultural side, because you guys are building for a broader audience, but FWB works with people who are right-brainers. Like, this is a harder thing to build, something that's sticky when we're talking about getting out of Discord. And what have you experienced, and what's some of the feedback on Web3 tech that you get?
I mean, I think where we really win is where we take whatever. I mean, there's 400 vendors here. I mean, if you can't see it, it's endless seas of people. These are just tools. These are and I would say that, to your point, I think we've reached a point where we have great hammers, we have great cement, we have great wiring, but what are we using it for? What is the actual point of any of this stuff here? And the ones that win are culture. I'm looking at Base behind us. Base Hunt is arguably a home run, because it married really easy tech with the wallet with culture, and you're going to see people doing it. So I think for us, where we see wins, or where we're actually most interested in, is the people that want to take the great tooling they did and then actually run it through a cultural lens for adoption. That's the only place that I think growth is actually going to happen. I don't think if the financialization of everything was going to bring everyone to the space, we'd have way more people. Your mom would be a degen. It'd be awesome. But I think it's only within culture that we're going to see that big adoption, and so that's the area that we like to play in, and that's where we see the best results.
Kelvin, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything here. I think when we think about Web3, it is the next generation of the internet, right? We want everyone to be there one day. So yeah, I agree with everything you say. I think what you guys are building is also really amazing.
You want your mom to be a degen?
It would be nice if she tells me, that's this new thing, check this out, and not me telling her all the time. I think it is nice if we can have our roles reversed once in a while.
Well, and Francisco, the plot twist on what's going on with Request Network is that you guys have really started focusing on developing economies. So talk to us about going from, kind of an invoicing platform to helping bank the unbanked.
Yeah, so Request Network is deep on the financial side, but it's deep on the decentralized finance. And we want to try to create something that's very inclusive and decentralized and efficient, but that allows the everyone to join and to make get access to these tools that right now are more difficult to get access to. You need I mean, there's like 2-3 million unbanked in the world, right? And with crypto being a bank account in your pocket, this is possible. The thing is, you need to convince these financial institutions or create new financial institutions on top of the chain. And that's what we are about. We are trying to create the data layer that will allow to have financial context that's owned by you, it's decentralized, and that people can build on top of the new finance of the future. We believe at Request that the financial system will be on-chain, and we are trying to create the tools to make that happen faster.
Well, and I'm curious, so you guys are just as much a part of this as we are. Who here thinks keep Web3, and you have to like come join us here? Raise your hand. I like it. Hot take. Who here says we need to make this way easier and obfuscate it in the background?
People who can't see, it's everyone. And can I just say, for your story, like the Unbanked is such a massive story for Web3, but I think that the way that you tell that story is through culture. I think that it's very hard to tell people just like to get them to care straightforward about Unbanked. I think you need to make something way more compelling about how this opens up, why this space opens up. And I'm going to just say it a million times. It's through the cultural way of that type of narrative and storytelling that's going to get people to care. It's not going to just be like it's an untapped audience.
Explain what you mean by culture.
What'd it say?
Double click on culture. What do you mean?
I just mean like if I were to think about the way that I would tell that story, it wouldn't be like going to be like, here's an audience that, we can have access to that, is an untapped audience. I would tell the story of what does it mean to be unbanked? What resources are not given to you? Like what does it mean to be a refugee or to not have access to things that we all take for granted? And tell that story in a way that's like very compelling, almost like traditional marketing. And then the solve for that is actually Web3 because you win them with emotion, not with just like a straightforward pitch.
Definitely, maybe I passed myself wrong, but definitely it wasn't my point to tell this as a segment of the market that we are targeting because we are not. We are actually just building, we are open source, we just build infrastructure, and our goal is to build infrastructure that will allow these people not to be unbanked because products will be built on top. But the unbanked is a part of it. We believe that finance should be more inclusive, it should be more decentralized. So bringing these financial institutions on top of the chain by showing them the improved efficiency that they can get, it will open up the system itself. They will become more decentralized by coming on top of the chain. They will become more transparent and they will become more inclusive. So my point is, I believe that in order to make this happen, there needs to be incentives for the players that are building things to come in and to do things. Because I'm not saying culture is not important, but culture it's not a motivation enough, unfortunately.
I strongly disagree.
I think I really like the point about culture, and specifically thinking about a lot of the technologies and apps we use these days. You likely heard it from your friends and family first, and that's why you went and downloaded it. May it be social media apps or a certain phone or things like that. I think that's one thing that's missing a little bit in the Web3 space. That kind of element of delight that makes people want to go, hey, friends, check this out. This is amazing. This changes lives. Get this app or get this protocol, whatever, right now. I think we're missing that element. There's a lot of projects and things within the Web3 space where it's like a technical delight, where if you understand the technology behind it, you'll be amazed by it. But they're not necessarily more of the common delight that I think people are used to with Web 2. Picking up maybe an iPhone for the first time and thinking, oh wow, this just works. 10, 20 years ago. I think a lot of that element is missing with Web3, and I think we're slowly getting there. And there's a lot of very exciting technology that's going to make the general public excited to share things with their friends and family and their groups. And yeah.
Tell us why. Why is it missing? Is it because UX and Web3 is just really hard? Is it because we're missing something? We're not thinking about it right? We're still kind of in our own little echo chamber and we're okay with it? Are we missing dApps? Like, why?
I do think in certain areas the UX still has a lot of improvements, but I also think that fundamentally being onboarded onto Web3 is kind of a change in mindset. For example, just to think about self-custodial wallet, for example, it's not what you're used to when you think about, I have a Gmail account and I can use this Gmail account everywhere to make an account on all the different Web2 platforms. I don't think it's not exactly the same idea with like a wallet. And I think in wallets, there's like multiple different accounts in the wallet. Like it's a lot of twisting the way you're thinking about how you interact with the space. And you don't download an app. You most likely be going to a specific dApp and then just like integrating your wallet with it. So it's like a change in mindset that isn't easy. And I think someone mentioned like a growth curve. You have to learn how to do it before you're Web3 proficient and Web3 native. And I think that transition can definitely be smoother with better UX. And I think, again, back to the baby step points, like we need baby steps to get people comfortable to be a fully on-chain kind of person. Love to hear everyone's thought. I feel like there's maybe some disagreement here.
I do think there is still a problem with the UX on Web3. And the problem is, one of the biggest problems is that right now, if you want to keep things easy to use, you need to kind of abdicate a bit of decentralization. And I think that we can improve that. We can keep things decentralized with good user experience. Another thing is that Web3 is very specific, and it has very specific things that are not normal for a traditional user. The wallet, as you mentioned, is something that's hard to get by, and the transactions, right? It takes time. You see, when you use a Web3 product, you can see that it takes time, and what happens on the blockchain needs to be very transparent for the user, right? You need to have all this messaging saying your transaction is being processed. You need to be able to confirm when that happens, or try to explain at all the steps that you are making to make the user secure, right? Because the user knows that when you go to a new app on Web3, even if you are experienced, you always think, am I going to connect my wallet here? Am I going to click on this button to run this transaction? So it's important for you to, on the user experience side, to show what is happening on your product, because that brings a lot of trust, and these little details will matter and will be improved in the times to come.
I think we're just still stuck in talking about tools. When I asked Shannon what the purpose of this was, you were like, it's 3-4 years on and we still haven't built like a killer consumer app. I think Warpcast is probably the closest that any of us, and there's a reason why people are so excited about it, because it feels the closest to anything else in the real world. But we're just talking about like identity or wallets. Like, we're not actually talking about the things that are supposed to sit on top of that captures people like hearts and minds and imagination. So until we can just talk about those products, we're going to be stuck in people feeling joyless about a lot of this stuff.
Totally. Okay, final question. You have a magic wand. What one thing in Web3 would you improve, shift, fix? I can kick us off if you're not ready.
Just a second. So, to improve, I would say user experience is the main thing to improve.
But say one thing. Like, we now
One
have
thing-
things
one
that we
specific
love.
thing?
Or,
Account abstraction.
I would say fast forward us 5 years to where we're having a ton of consumer products and seeing what the world looks like, living on top of Web3 rails.
I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm not going to talk about specific product, but I think I hope that we can get to a place where when I talk to people about crypto, their first reaction is not just, oh, prices, or I want to make money in XYZ, but it's like, oh yeah, I use this really cool thing that changed my life, this tool that's built on top of Web3 technology that really improve my living qualities and things like that. So I think hoping we can get to that place one day is something that I think would be great.
I thank you for that. And mine is that people would recognize that we have options, right? Like, speaking for Americans right now, we feel like we're stuck in a political system with no options. We've been stuck in a financial system. A lot of us act like inflation is the weather and then we can't change it. It just is. I would love for people to know, maybe this is too complex, maybe it's too speculative. You don't have to opt in, but you do have a choice. There's somewhere else to go. So with that, we will say thank you very much, guys. Enjoy your
Thanks.
ETHDenver. We'll see you soon.